Welcome to OnFinality's customer interview series, where we learn more from leaders in the blockchain space and how OnFinality's infrastructure helps them build the decentralized future faster. My name is Rob. I'm head of growth at OnFinality, and today it's exciting. We've got Deepansh from Polkadex to tell us how they're using OnFinality's expertise in powering their infrastructure. Hey, Deepansh, great to have you here.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you inviting us on this one. Really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Can you tell people a little bit more about Polkadex and why it's so interesting?
Sure. So, in a nutshell, Polkadex is an order book based exchange. We provide high frequency trading with cross chain interoperability without custody of assets. And that allow us to be empowering, as you said, individuals and institutions to trade in an ecosystem, in a secure ecosystem, right? And without worrying about operator kind of not just facilitating the trading, but again, doing all sort of things which in regulated market is restricted for. So we want to create an open market where anyone can plug in with their wallets, which they hold the custody, be it the hardware and the browser-based wallets, and just trade natively all the assets. So we envision ourselves to be interoperate with almost all the blockchain network, legacy and future blockchains, and be the junctions for these ecosystems so that their communities can come together and do trade and get exposure to other ecosystems as well. So a very natively nick-picked end-to-end ecosystem we want to create, and OnFinality seems right into fit in that ecosystem.
Awesome. And I guess the most obvious question at the moment is with FTX imploding and things, and is this kind of like a dream come true for you guys in terms of like the exposure that suddenly being given to decentralized exchanges, or are people perhaps still fearful of using DEXes?
It's very unfortunate to what happened with the FTX users, if you call it, where and again, it's multiple layers to it, right? Where people are still not aware about the risk they have, and they trade in a platform which again hold the custody of their assets, right? And since crypto regulations so far has not been very clear about what all things you can do, and even offshore companies licensing and how it impacts in a greater sense, and that's why centralized exchanges can do a lot of things which under the traditional finances wouldn't be possible, right? And because in traditional finances it's highly regulated. And again, I was reading a few research kind of articles about how PayPal had a very short runway, and one of the suggestions they had in was to use users capital to kind of tap into it. It was like decade ago. I remember, I am kind of recalling that moment, right? And one of the advices they got from their legal team was to not do that for obvious reasons. So traditional finances and the instruments and the tools built on there has been very clear and highly regulated. But when it comes down to centralized gateways provider, right, which can control your custody of assets, it's not very clear right now. So there's an awareness has to be given to the users, obviously to the mainstream users, because crypto native to a certain extent understand the risk they are taking when they deposit their assets to an operator, right? So there's yet to be a knowledge base created, a more awareness. And again, the infrastructure and the solution provided by the DEXes has to evolve gradually and to compete with the user experience that the central exchanges are providing, right? Because for a mainstream or even for the crypto native, it should be minimal, slick interface to trade and without too much of a tech involvement or interaction, right? It has to be very seamless for them. So we are working toward that goal. We release our beta order book to the public, and this is a 3-4 months phase where we want to ensure that the systems are stable and secure enough before we open up several markets or build derivatives or tools for users to interact with. So that's a step-by-step baby steps we are taking to ensure that each and every phase we are being very confident of what we are building. And the ultimate goal is to have, to be the NYSE for crypto, where you are not just trading crypto to crypto, but crypto to fiat, and also tokenized version of stocks being traded in a DEX. So this is the ultimate vision for us. So.
Yeah, super powerful. I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about some of these issues, and one of the guys on there, I can't remember who, he was saying that kind of arguing against this in a sense that like if the centralized exchanges that are around now are still going to be around, say in the next 6 months or year, then he was saying then that kind of almost fights the narrative of the DEXes, that if they can all come through like this period and people still use them and so on, then his argument was like the centralized exchanges would come out stronger, and like, this is the moment, right, for the decentralized exchange. And it's kind of an interesting point, but I guess
and that's true, Rob, just to add to your point, is it's we don't think at all that this is a zero sum game. It's a positive sum game where everyone is here to provide value to their kind of users. So there's no we haven't seen ourselves as a competitor to centralized exchanges in a very straightforward manner, right? So there are different aspects to it. From a philosophical angle, exchanges were supposed to be decentralized, right? Where an operator should just facilitate the trade, nothing more, nothing less. That's all. Because if you want to enter into the Web3 or the DeFi realm, exchanges are the gateway to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very contradictory statement, or more of a there are different school of thought for it, but exchanges again becomes a gateway. So, and there are subsets of users who prefer to go with centralized exchanges, and we are not in a way that we have to get those users to onboard to DEXes. But again, there should be an assessment of risk, how much of a risk you are taking to do that. And again, with the DEXes, with the current format that DEXes are there right now, which are out there in the public, they are not aligning with the mainstream user base, where still there are a lot of things to be done to make it seamless to interact with, right? And rather than being siloed in one ecosystem, trading certain characteristic of those ecosystem, you have to be open up to be interoperable with other ecosystem. That's where you can match against what the value add provided by the central exchanges. Because if you're a DEX built on, let's just say, Ethereum, right? Then you are siloed in that exchanges. There's no way you can trade with any other blockchain ecosystem. And then the reason come as an average Joe, why would I go to that particular DEX when I can only trade characteristic of those ecosystems? There is yet to be done. The DEXes are not yet a better alternative to CEXes, but what we are seeing and what the market interest and the inclination toward more DEX adoption will emerge to a extent where DEXes are able to provide the same value add as the central exchanges. And we are working toward that goal, right? We are not saying that whatever the other DEXes have built is not great. Everything is great, right? And there's yet more to be done from their extent. So let's work together and build a greater value add, right? A better alternative, and then see where the inclination is going toward. So we take it as a positive sum game rather than zero sum game. There are different school of thoughts of why you use CEXes than DEXes, but again, it's not what we are here for.
Sure. Yeah, agree. Definitely makes sense to have both. And you mentioned that, of course, there's having that liquidity, I guess, across the different ecosystems. So where is that coming from right now? Like, and is that given the bear market conditions, it must be a bit of a challenge as things are drying up.
Right. So it kind of aligns with our roadmap where we, for the initial phases, for at least 6 months, right? We never focused on liquidity, bootstrapping liquidity, or kind of for projecting the user base. Our ultimate goal was to ensure that the products are stable and secure enough. That's the goal, to be very clear. And once we are very confident enough, we are running some bug bounty program with our upcoming bug bounty program with a couple of the partners. So we want initial community feedback, right? So we have this open beta program where community members can provide feedback and get incentivized for something that we find very critical about from a user angle, from the user experience or the interface itself. So the whole phase that we are going is more of a beta testing, right, on the Orderbook, which is released on our mainnet, and getting as much community feedback as possible. And once we have reached certain threshold, and then look out for liquidity provision. Since we are a parachain as well, we'll be able to bridge solution from the Polkadot ecosystem, right, from the parachains, and have a shared liquidity concept there, and same apply to all the other ecosystems. So that's something down the lane. We do have some novel solutions to bridge liquidity, right, and have enough organic volume coming in so that it's more acceptable for the crypto natives and the mainstream users to come and check it out the system, right, and down the lane become the user of that particular product. So
OnFinality, we also came from the Polkadot ecosystem, and recently announced just yesterday actually that we're providing support for developers into Ethereum. And I noticed that one of the interesting things about Polkadex is, likewise, you started in Polkadot, but now you have bridges into Ethereum. Can you talk more about that?
absolutely. So right now, since behind the curtains, you have these two chains working in parallel. One is live with the mainnet, the solo chain, which is built with the same framework as Polkadot uses, which is the substrate. And then we are soon to go live with the parachain as well. So that will allow us to, bridge to the .sama ecosystem. And then this mainnet that is right now up and running, and where you can see the Orderbook performing, that will bridge through one of the novel solution we are working, Thea protocol, which is a cross-chain solution which allow us to connect to all the other ecosystem. And that is something under development. And for the time being, we have been using some of the the widely adopted bridges in this ecosystem. One of them is Chainbridge. Mm-hmm. So our mainnet is right now connected to Chainbridge to bridge liquidity or assets from the Ethereum ecosystem. And down the lane, we'll be having multiple bridges to a certain ecosystems, because there are many great open source bridges out there, and we would like to connect to as many of them to several other ecosystems, so that it's more of an open trading and open solution. So.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. You mentioned there about that you recently won a parachain. Congratulations, and even got a shout out from Gavin Wood and things like that. So you guys obviously been pretty successful. Can you talk about maybe some of the challenges you've faced to build Polkadex and how you overcame them?
Right. So when we started way back in 2020 September, I believe, when we got the Web3 Open Grant program, one of the critical questions that people used to ask is why you need a DEX, right? Like, CEXes are able to do everything that they were supposed to do, or what the user wanted. So why you need a DEX? But that narrative, what we have seen in the last 2 years, have been more stronger, where you need a DEX, right? A solution to it. So initially we faced the problem of the storyline, right? Why you need a DEX to it. So it was more of a product market fit problem, where why should we build a DEX if CEXes are able to do that? That's a question people used to ask us, but we were very clear that, hey, custody of assets is going to be a big thing, and trading in an ecosystem where you don't need to delegate your assets is going to be the future for it, right? So that was the initial problem of that we struggle explaining people about why we are doing it. And then once we stick to that vision that, okay, we have to deliver that, the struggles that we had, not to call it a struggle, but more of a learning curve, was to build an architecture that supports our vision, right? You have to get your hand dirty. You have to pull up your sleeves and start code. And my partner Gautam, who has been on the front line of developing and innovating the Polkadex architecture itself, we had several research and development to be done to provide what exactly we vision for. So more of our research and development took some time, and then building some testnet. So we from a business angle, we are not very aggressive in a way that, okay, we have to be taking baby steps and start building product and gradually evolve to extent where now people are using it organically, right? So there was no struggle for us in a way that it was more of a learning curve and a pinch of patience, if you call it, where you have to create those knowledge base, aware the community about the importance of non-custodial exchanges, and again build that architecture was a very exciting time. But exciting times always comes with hardship. So and yeah, so that was kind
Understood.
of a yeah.
Yeah, and about as you're building it, how did you come across OnFinality? So we're obviously a part of that infrastructure stack, I guess, for Polkadex, and helping your users deploy validator nodes. Can you explain a little bit about how our relationship started and the benefits of working with OnFinality?
Absolutely. And almost 1.5 year ago, when we released our mainnet, our solo chain, right? So what we wanted was, uh, there are a subset of our community member who wants to have a go-to platform where they can spin up node quickly and become a validator, right? So they don't want to spin up their own node on their own servers and go through those 9 yards to kind of run the validator. Of course, majority of our community members are running their own nodes via the third-party service providers, right? But there were a couple of them who wanted a one-click, node deployment. So that's where and we are very inclusive of what we are doing. So we want to involve everyone in this picture. So that's where thought for those subset of users who want to just one click deploy the validator and don't want to go to the 9 yards of spinning their own nodes and all that thing. We need to get a solution for it, right? Though we would have been fine if we didn't do, but again, it's for the greater good. We want to have a healthy community and everyone to participate. So that's where I believe Victor from Manta Network, I was talking to
Okay.
him, and he told like, "Hey, I have a solution for you. That's OnFinality. Talk to these guys." And I was like, "Yeah, cool." So that's where I got in touch with Sam, and we quickly started discussing about there were multiple synergies after that. Rather than not just creating node as a service, but again for our mainnet we needed some other projects to provide open endpoints as well. So not just node as a service, but also API access to our main network. Couple of things that we thought, okay, let's partner with teams who are building this, and rather than doing everything from our end, let's just delegate that stuff to people who are better at it and can deliver within the time frame. So after talking to Victor from Manta and then Sam, we thought like, hey, let's go with it. So, and since this is more of a community driven approach, right? We thought let community support those ideas where what we are expecting and what we had in mind, this community thinks the same, right? And that's where we thought to put this, have that community driven through our on chain treasury. And you guys were supported, and yeah, and I believe close to a year we have been, more than a year we have been partners.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah.
Appreciate your support. And maybe you could share, before you talked about derivatives and other things coming, is that like what else is coming down the pipeline for Polkadex?
Right. So there are, some technical advancements, and from a building financial tools and instrument. Initially, we will be opening up more markets, right? Not just uh, what we have right now, and then opening up the markets comes with as much as you connect to other ecosystem. Those ecosystem can be traded in Polkadex Orderbook itself. So from a roadmap angle, we are soon going to release our mobile app, right, for the mainnet, where people can access the order book through their mobile application. So that is one of the kind of immediately what I'm seeing. And then opening up several market, starting with the Polkadot ecosystem itself, and then have some critical and important partnership to be done, right, which allow us to kind of have that organic traction, and then start derivatives. And Polkadex right now is a zero trading fee platform, and for this phase itself, where we want to allow people to trade, right, without any friction from their end, or without any expense from their end. So this zero trading fee phase works where you can just plug in and trade, and not with no upfront cost at all.
Wow.
So yeah, and
Nice.
then kind of a focus on the growth. Once we have all the added features, functionalities and instruments built, then our focus will be how to kind of then we'll be in the growth phase, right? And then our focus will be on how to get more organic volume, how to aware the community, user projections, targets, and everything.
Understand. And the Polkadex team is based in India, which is renowned for top tech talent, especially in Web 2. Could you give any advice for people that are thinking about getting into crypto, maybe already developer and looking to get into this space? What advice would you give them?
Right. So just a nuance there. The founders are from India, but we have, we are a global team itself, and we just want the best talents to work with us.
Sure.
And irrespective of where you are from, and that's where most of the talents are growing in India as well. That's something very observable, where developers from India are more interested rather than going to a Web2 startup and take a corporate job in an MNC. They want to get their hand dirty and try to interact with more and more cutting edge technologies, right? And Substrate fits right into it. And there have been several programs and events going on in India as well, and we want to take some initiatives to create an audience of developers to get exposed to Polkadot ecosystem, right? And I believe Substrate, when we started, there was not much documentation, but now it has a great documentation, reference points, and videos, tutorials, and everything. So it makes things very easy for someone from from a tech background to get started with Substrate framework. So just to you have to put your mind into it. Exactly, you need to know where you fit into it, right? At the end of the day, are you here for money? Are you here for creating value add? So from a developer angle, you have to figure it out. What's my ultimate goal? Do I need to create an open source project of my own, which has a value add for the community to interact and use it? Well, ahead, go get exposed to different framework. I'm not just saying go ahead and just blindly follow Substrate. Test out the waters everywhere, all the ecosystem. See where what you're trying to build fits into that ecosystem or not, right? And if you want to contribute to a project, see which kind of projects are developing at a very lean and a very high way, right? And almost all the parachains are doing that. So yeah, there are great things. It just to a certain degree, you have to do some research and get started. And you don't need some mentorship to do that. Obviously, there are several people reaching out to us. Hey, just Google it, and you will get all these things. And then join developer communities, and then see how strong the developer community is. What kind of resources they provide, what kind of grants they provide, right? What kind of programs they have, and gradually we'll understand where you fits. Where you kind of fit right into that. Where you want to work on your own project or contribute to an open source project. Sorry, or join a program or join a project. So.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah, I agree. There's a massive amount of information out there, and so many unique opportunities for people to either build their own project or get involved with others. So, yeah, appreciate your advice. Well, thanks for joining us today, Deepansh. It's been a pleasure learning about DEXes and a little bit about the future. If you'd like to learn more about Polkadex, you can visit their website. If you're a Web3 builder, you can come to OnFinality, app.onfinality.io. Check out our website, maybe run a validator node for Polkadex, or if you want to build your own app, you can use all the different tools and monitoring services that we have, including free APIs. And yeah, well, thanks again, Deepansh. Pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you so much.